Whispers in the dark. The mineral-rich moons of Jaxar Prime glowed against the gas giant's swirling surface as Chief Archaeologist Vexus Tilan carefully brushed dust from what appeared to be an ancient data terminal. The excavation site, buried 200 meters beneath the surface of Jaxar's third moon, had already yielded more questions than answers over the 3 cycles since its discovery. Another warning glyph, Vexus muttered, her 4 compound eyes focusing on the strange symbols that illuminated under her specialized light. She passed her scanner over the terminal, watching as her device attempted to decipher the alien script. Her assistant, Krell, hovered nearby, his translucent wing membranes vibrating with excitement. That makes 17 references to these humans in this chamber alone, he said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, all with the same warning pattern. Vexus straightened her segmented body, stretching to her full 2-meter height. What puzzles me isn't the warnings themselves, but why they were buried so deliberately. The ancients wanted these messages found, but not easily. The scanner beeped, offering its partial translation. Caution. Human expansion zone. Territorial violation. Whale P-Pro-V-O-K R-E-S-P-O-S-E. Centennial Outpost 37. The dating analysis puts this structure at approximately 6,000 cycles old, Krell noted, consulting his datapad. Long before any recorded history of our people, who were these ancients warning about these humans, and why haven't we encountered them in all this time? Vexus carefully extracted a small device from the terminal, a metallic sphere no larger than her palm, covered in unfamiliar circuitry. Unlike the other artifacts they'd discovered, this one seemed to hum with dormant energy. Perhaps we have been fortunate, she replied. Or perhaps they are merely myths, cautionary tales told by a civilization long gone. Back aboard their research vessel, Vexus placed the sphere in a containment field for further study. The Jaxari Exploration Division had granted her team 6 more days before they needed to report their findings to the High Council. Findings that now included over 50 distinct warnings about a species called humans who apparently possess technology far beyond anything in the known 12-system alliance. Director Tilan, the ship's communication officer, called from the bridge. We're receiving an unusual signal from the edge of the system. Vexus hurried to the bridge, where a pulsing waveform displayed on the main screen. What is it? Unknown, Director. It's not matching any communication protocol in our database. The signal appeared approximately 20 minutes ago and has been repeating at precise intervals. As they watched, the sphere in the lab below suddenly activated, projecting a holographic star map throughout the containment field. Alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected energy signatures from the artifact. It's responding to the signal, Vexus realized with a mixture of dread and excitement. The star map highlighted a specific sector of space, exactly where the unknown signal originated. 2 days later, Vexus stood before the High Council of Jaxar Prime, her discoveries displayed for the 12 council members. The chamber's tiered seating formed a perfect circle, with each counselor representing one of the colony worlds. These warnings are consistent across all recovered artifacts, Vexus explained, gesturing to the translated glyphs floating above the central platform. They describe these humans as territorial, technologically advanced, and most concerning, capable of destroying entire worlds if provoked. First Counselor Draz, his exoskeleton bearing the distinctive red markings of the Elder Caste, leaned forward. And you believe this signal we've detected is connected to these mythological creatures? The evidence suggests they are not mythological, Counselor. The artifacts responded directly to the signal. Furthermore, our astronomers have confirmed unusual stellar activity in the direction indicated by the star map. Consistent with the kind of spatial distortion our theoretical physicists have proposed for faster-than-light travel. Counselor Merrick's, head of the Defense Division, flexed her battle-scarred mandibles. If these humans are real and as dangerous as these artifacts suggest, we should mobilize the fleet immediately. Prepare for hostile contact. That would be premature, countered Counselor Jix of the Science Division. These warnings are thousands of cycles old. Even if these humans existed then, they may be extinct now, or they may have evolved past aggression, as we have. Vexus activated another hologram, the sphere they'd recovered. This device appears to be some kind of beacon. I believe it was designed to alert the ancients if humans entered this star system. The fact that it activated suggests they may indeed still exist, and they may be approaching. Murmurs spread through the council chamber as the implications sank in. Speculation and ancient superstitions dismissed First Counselor Draz finally. We cannot commit resources based on archaeological curiosities and coincidental signals. The defense fleet will maintain standard alert status, but no more. Continue your research, Director Tilan, but exercise caution. Do not activate any more of these devices. Vexus knew a dismissal when she heard one. They're fools, Krell said later as they returned to the excavation site against direct orders. If even half of these warnings are accurate, the Council requires concrete evidence. Vexus interrupted, carefully removing wall panels to access more of the ancient technology, and we're going to provide it. The deeper sections of the outpost had remained sealed until now, protected by security measures they'd only recently learned to bypass. As they entered what appeared to be a command center, lights activated automatically and dormant systems hummed to life. Incredible, breathed Krell. Power sources still functioning after 6,000 cycles. Vexus approached the central console, where a larger version of the sphere they'd found earlier pulsed with increasing intensity. As she reached toward it, the sphere projected a three-dimensional image of a bipedal creature, tall, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with forward-facing eyes. Warning: human biological profile. Read the translation. Extreme caution advised. Highly adaptable. Dangerous when threatened. Capable of irrational actions for emotional reasons. Avoid confrontation. They look fragile, noted Krell. How could such beings threaten advanced civilizations? The projection changed, showing the same creatures manning vessels of impossible scale, wielding weapons that tore apart worlds. The images were disturbing in their clarity. These weren't myths or exaggerations. They were records. Not so fragile after all, Vexus whispered. A new alert sounded from their ship in orbit. The communication officer's voice came through, panicked. Director, multiple unknown vessels have just appeared at the edge of the system. They're moving faster than anything we've ever recorded. Vexus and Krell exchanged alarmed glances as the ancient warning system began blaring in perfect synchronization with their own ship's alerts. Get us back to the ship, Vexus ordered, and inform the Council. The humans are here. The emergency session of the High Council was chaos. Real-time sensor data showed 7 vessels of unknown configuration approaching Jaxar Prime's orbit. They had appeared without warning, moving at speeds the Jaxari fleet couldn't hope to match. They've made no aggressive moves, reported the Defense Fleet commander, but they've positioned themselves to intercept any vessel attempting to leave the system. Have they responded to communication attempts? Demanded First Counselor Draz, his earlier skepticism replaced by barely controlled panic. Yes, Counselor. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, using a mathematical sequence that our linguists are decoding now. They appear to be attempting peaceful contact. Vexus, called in as a consultant due to her research, studied the vessels on the display. Their design matched nothing in the ancient warnings. Those had shown brutal, angular ships bristling with weapons. These vessels were sleek, with flowing lines that suggested a completely different aesthetic philosophy. The warnings are 6,000 cycles old, she reminded the Council. Much can change in that time. We should strike first, insisted Counselor Merrix. The ancient records are clear about the threat. The ancient records also show that humans retaliate with overwhelming force, Vexus countered. If they wanted to destroy us, why announce their presence? Why attempt communication? The communication officer interrupted, Counselors, we've received a transmission, visual and audio, translated based on the mathematical key they provided. Display it, ordered Draz. The central hologram shifted, and a human face appeared, just as the ancient records had shown, but without the fearsome battle gear depicted in the warnings. This human had dark skin and eyes that reflected light in a way that seemed almost Jaxari-like in their depth. "People of Jaxar Prime," the human said, their translated voice clear and measured. "I am Captain Eleanor Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps vessel Horizon. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to establish contact with your civilization. We apologize if our arrival has caused alarm. Our long-range sensors detected activation of ancient Guardian technology in your system, which necessitated our immediate response." The council chamber fell silent, the Jaxari present trying to reconcile the terrifying warnings of their artifacts with this seemingly peaceful greeting. First Counselor Draz recovered first. "How do you know of our world? Why have you come now, after leaving warnings about your kind throughout our system?" The human, Captain Chen, looked confused. "Warnings? I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The technology you've activated wasn't created by humans. It was built by the Guardians, an ancient species that once protected this sector from a threat known as the Harvesters. We've been following the Guardian network for centuries, searching for other survivors." "Survivors?" echoed Vexus, stepping forward. "What do you mean?" Captain Chen's expression grew solemn. "The Harvesters nearly destroyed human civilization 5,000 years ago, just as they did to countless others. The Guardians helped us survive, but they themselves were eventually overcome. We've spent millennia searching for other civilizations that might have survived the Harvester culling." The transmission suddenly fragmented, and alarms blared throughout the council chamber. "Multiple new contacts detected," shouted the defense commander. Massive energy signatures emerging from the system's outer boundary. The human captain's expression transformed to one of urgent alarm. "Jaxari Council, those are Harvester ships. The ancient warning system wasn't warning you about us, it was warning about them. Prepare your defenses immediately." As the transmission cut out, the council stared in horror at the tactical display where dozens of massive angular vessels, exactly matching the ancient depictions Vexus had discovered, emerged from the darkness of space. The humans hadn't been the monsters of legend. They had been trying to warn them about the real threat all along. And now that threat had arrived. The truth emerges. The Jaxari defense fleet mobilized with remarkable efficiency despite the shock of first contact with not one but two alien civilizations in a single day. Across Jaxar Prime, citizens watched their skies with all four eyes turned upward, ancient myths suddenly manifesting as reality above their world. In the Council's war room, Vexus stood beside military commanders as they tracked both the approaching Harvester vessels and the smaller human fleet that had, without hesitation, moved to intercept them. "They're outnumbered 4-1, noted Commander Thrix, mandibles clicking with concern. Yet they positioned themselves between the Harvesters and our world." The communication system activated again, displaying Captain Chen's face. Smoke filled the background, and the sound of urgent orders being shouted suggested the human vessel had already engaged the enemy. "Jaxari Council," Chen said, a streak of red liquid, blood, Vexus realized, running down her face. "The Harvesters have deployed advanced scouts toward your atmosphere. We're attempting to intercept, but our numbers are insufficient. We need your cooperation." First Counselor Draz, still struggling to process the rapid shift from ancient myth to present crisis, gestured helplessly. "Our vessels are not designed for combat on this scale. The defense fleet exists to deter pirates and settle colonial disputes, not to face this. We don't need your ships to engage directly," Chen responded, her image flickering as something impacted her vessel. "The Guardians built defenses into your system. That's what the artifacts you discovered are connected to. There's an orbital platform, likely hidden in the rings of your gas giant. If you can activate it." The transmission cut off as a massive explosion rocked the human ship. Vexus stepped forward. The sphere we found. It's part of this defense system. If I can access the command center we discovered, perhaps. Go, ordered Draz. Take whatever resources you need. Within hours, Vexus and Krell had returned to the Guardian outpost, bringing the sphere that had first activated at the mysterious signal. The battle above continued, the humans fighting with remarkable coordination and technology that seemed almost magical in its effectiveness, but slowly losing ground to the overwhelming Harvester force. The signal patterns from both fleets match what we're seeing in these records, Krell reported, examining the Guardian database they'd managed to partially access. The Harvesters, the Guardians called them the Morax. They consume not just resources, but life, technology, knowledge. They integrate what they take into themselves. Vexus placed the sphere into what they now understood was a control interface. The entire chamber hummed to life, displays activating to show the battle above in perfect detail. The Guardians were custodians, she said, reading the flowing script that appeared. They watched over developing civilizations, protecting them from the Morax. Humans were one such civilization, but something went wrong. What do you mean? The Guardians were failing. Their numbers too few, their resources stretched too thin across too many worlds. They made a choice. They armed some of their protected species, giving them technology and knowledge they weren't ready for. Humans were among them. The interface suddenly pulsed with urgent light as a new transmission came through, not from the Jaxuri fleet or the human vessels, but directly to the Guardian system. A human face appeared, different from Captain Chen. Older, with pale skin and eyes that reflected decades of conflict. Guardian Outpost 37, the human said. This is Admiral Konstantin Volkov of the Earth Defense Force. Authentication code Sigma. Echo Vector 99. Emergency override requested. The system responded immediately, controls shifting and new interfaces appearing. Authentication accepted, replied an artificial voice. Guardian Protocol Omega authorized. Warning. Orbital defense platform power at 31%. Full defensive capability not available. Admiral Volkov's expression remained grim. Understood. Target priority on Harvester command vessels. Captain Chen, status. The view shifted, showing Captain Chen on the bridge of her damaged ship. We've lost the Nova Dawn and the Peregrine. The Horizon is at 40% combat effectiveness. We can't hold them back much longer, Admiral. Help is coming, Captain. The 7th Fleet is inbound, but they're still 20 minutes out. We need to hold until then. The Admiral turned his attention back to Vexus. You must be the archaeologist who activated the beacon. I'm sorry we couldn't arrive sooner with proper explanations. The Guardian records should explain who we are, who the Harvesters are. Vexus stepped closer to the projection. They explained some, but not all. Your people were supposed to be the monsters of our nightmares, yet you fight to protect us. Why? Because that's what the Guardians taught us, Volkov replied simply. 5,000 years ago, the Harvesters nearly exterminated humanity. The Guardians saved us, armed us, and gave us purpose, to continue their work when they could not, to protect other civilizations from the fate we nearly suffered. A massive explosion shook the outpost as something impacted the moon's surface nearby. They've detected the Guardian facility, warned Captain Chen. They're targeting it. Vexus made a decision. Admiral, I can activate the defense platform from here, but our knowledge of the system is limited. We need guidance. My tactical officer is sending operational parameters now, Volkov replied. But be warned, once activated, the platform will draw the Harvesters' full attention. They fear Guardian technology above all else. Krell looked at the tactical display, where the human vessels, now reduced to 5, continued to fight against overwhelming odds to keep the Harvesters from reaching Jaxur Prime. Why? He asked. Why would your people sacrifice themselves for ours? The warning said humans were dangerous, territorial. The warnings weren't about us, Captain Chen interjected, understanding dawning on her face. The Guardians were warning about humans corrupted by the Harvesters. About 5,000 years ago, they managed to assimilate a human colony. Those humans, twisted by Harvester technology, were what the Guardians feared might return. Admiral Volkov nodded grimly. And they were right to fear it. The Harvesters learn, adapt. Human ingenuity combined with their consumption-based technology created a hybrid threat more dangerous than either alone. That's why we've spent millennia hunting them, because we're partly responsible for what they've become. Another impact rattled the outpost, closer this time. We're out of time, Vexus said, placing her four-fingered hands on the Guardian interface, initiating defense platform activation. In orbit around the gas giant, hidden within its shimmering rings for 6,000 years, an enormous structure began to stir. Ice and rock that had concealed it drifted away as gravitational fields activated. The massive platform, 3 kilometers of ancient Guardian technology, oriented itself toward the battle raging near Jaxar Prime. On the Jaxari homeworld, citizens watched in awe as a new star seemed to ignite among the rings of their neighboring planet. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from this new light, cutting through space to strike the largest of the Harvester vessels. The massive ship, easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel, shuddered as its shields failed, then broke apart in a spectacular eruption of light and debris. In the Guardian outpost, Vexus and Krell watched the tactical display as the Harvesters reacted to this new threat, dozens of vessels breaking off their attack on the human fleet to converge on the defense platform. They're retreating from Jaxar Prime, Krell observed with relief. Not retreating, corrected Admiral Volkov. Prioritizing. The Guardian platform represents the greater threat and opportunity. If they capture it intact, they gain Guardian technology. Which cannot happen, added Captain Chen, her damaged vessel limping into a defensive position near the platform. Vexus, the platform's power is limited. Target their command ships only, the ones with the distinctive spires at their aft sections. Those control the smaller vessels. Vexus directed the platform's remaining energy toward the vessels Chen identified. 2 more Harvester ships were destroyed before the platform's power reserves dropped to critical levels. Platform at 12% power, reported the Guardian system. Defensive shields failing. On the tactical display, dozens of Harvester vessels surrounded the platform, launching what appeared to be boarding craft. They're going to take it, Krell said in horror. Not if we can help it, replied Chen, her damaged vessel moving directly into the path of the boarding craft. Admiral, the 7th Fleet's ETA. 8 minutes, Captain. Can you hold? Chen's expression was resolute. We'll make it work. Jaxari friends, there should be a self-destruct sequence for the platform. The Guardians never left their technology for others to claim. Vexus searched the interface, finding the emergency protocols. Confirmed. But it requires authentication from a Guardian or designated successor. Admiral Volkov's expression grew solemn. That would be me. But if we destroy the platform, your system loses its only major defense. If the Harvesters take it, we lose everything. Vexus countered. A new alarm sounded from the tactical display. Several Harvester vessels had broken from the main group and were descending toward Jaxar Prime's surface. They're launching landing craft, Krell exclaimed. They're going after the cities. The remaining human vessels moved to intercept, but they were too few, too damaged to stop them all. This was their plan all along, realized Chen. Draw our forces to defend the platform while they begin harvesting the population. On the display, they watched helplessly as Harvester craft breached Jaxar Prime's atmosphere, heading toward the largest population centers. The Jaxari defense fleet engaged them, but their weapons barely affected the alien vessels. Captain, called Volkov. The 7th Fleet reports they can shave 3 minutes off their arrival time by making an emergency jump. Risk factor is high. Tell them to take the risk. Chen replied without hesitation. We need them now. Vexus looked at the human faces on the display. These creatures who, according to ancient warnings, should have been their greatest threat, yet now fought and died to protect her people. Why? She asked again. Why would you sacrifice your people for ours? Captain Chen's reply was interrupted by a blinding flash on the tactical display. One of the human vessels had deliberately collided with a harvester ship heading for Jaxar Prime's capital city. Both vessels erupted in flames, debris raining through the upper atmosphere. Because that's what the Guardians taught us, Admiral Volkov answered quietly. That all sentient life deserves protection. That power comes with responsibility. That's the pact we made when they saved us, that we would continue their work. The outpost shook again as harvester weapons targeted it directly. Sections of the ceiling collapsed, and emergency force field activated to contain atmosphere breaches. They found us, Krell said unnecessarily, helping Vexus up from where she'd fallen. Admiral, called Chen urgently. We can't hold them back from the platform any longer. We need to make a choice. Volkov's expression was grim but determined. Initiate self-destruct. We'll handle the remaining vessels until reinforcements arrive. Vexus moved to execute the command, but hesitated. If we destroy the platform, we also destroy this outpost and all the knowledge it contains. Knowledge about the Guardians, about the Harvesters, about your people. Knowledge can be replaced, Volkov replied. Lives cannot. Before Vexus could respond, a new alert sounded, different from the others. On the tactical display, space itself seemed to fold as dozens of new vessels appeared near Jaxar Prime. The 7th Fleet has arrived, announced Chen, relief evident in her voice despite her injuries. The new human vessels, larger and more powerful than the small diplomatic fleet, immediately engaged the harvester forces. Their weapons cut through harvester shields with ease, and fighter craft swarmed from launch bays to intercept the landing vessels heading for the planet's surface. Abort self-destruct, ordered Volkov. Captain Chen, fall back and regroup with the fleet. We may be able to save the platform after all. As they watched, the tide of battle shifted dramatically. The human reinforcements fought with a coordination and effectiveness that seemed impossible given their numbers. One particularly massive vessel, identified as the Titan, moved into position above the Guardian platform, extending massive shield projectors to protect it from further harvester attacks. Within 20 minutes, the harvesters began to retreat, jumping away to escape the human counterattack. Those that had landed on Jaxar Prime were systematically hunted down by human strike teams working alongside Jaxari defense forces. In the council chamber, hours later, Vexus stood with Captain Chen and Admiral Volkov before the assembled leadership of her people. The captain's injuries had been treated, though the evidence of battle remained in her posture and eyes. The harvesters will return, Volkov explained. They always do. What you've experienced today was a scouting force, testing your defenses, measuring resistance. When they come back, it will be with a full invasion fleet. First, Counselor Draz, humbled by the day's events, asked the obvious question. How do we protect ourselves? The same way humanity did, Chen replied. With allies, with shared knowledge and technology. The Guardians are gone, but their mission continues through us. And now, perhaps through you as well. You're offering us what exactly? Asked Counselor Merrick's, skepticism still evident despite the humans' demonstrated commitment. Partnership, said Volkov simply. We can help you restore the Guardian platform, upgrade your defensive systems, prepare for the return of the harvesters. In exchange, we ask for your cooperation in expanding the warning network. There are other civilizations out there, unaware of the threat. Vexus stepped forward. All this time, we misunderstood the warnings. We thought they were about you, about humans, but they were trying to tell us about the harvesters. An understandable confusion, Chen said with a small smile. The Guardians weren't always clear in their messaging, and to be fair, early humans weren't exactly peaceful. We've evolved, just as your people have. "The choice is yours," added Volkov. "We won't force our help on you. But know this, the harvesters now know your world exists. They've tasted your technology, scanned your biology. They will return, whether we are here or not." First Counselor Draz looked at his fellow council members, then at Vexus, whose research had uncovered both the warning and, ultimately, their salvation. "I believe," the first counselor said carefully, "that today marks the beginning of a new chapter in Jaxari history, one where the myths of our past meet the reality of our future." He extended a four-fingered hand toward Admiral Volkov. "We would be honored to accept your partnership." As human and Jaxari leaders formalized their new alliance, Vexus returned to the viewing window overlooking the capital city. Above, the human fleet maintained its protective formation, their vessels gleaming in the light of Jaxar Prime's sun. The ancient warnings had been right about one thing. Humans were indeed a force to be reckoned with. But what the Guardians hadn't recorded, what the artifacts couldn't convey, was the human strength could be used to protect as fiercely as it could destroy. And for that, Vexus was profoundly grateful. When legends fight. 3 months after first contact, Jaxar Prime had transformed. Guardian technology, dormant for millennia, now integrated with human and Jaxari systems throughout the planet's defense grid. The orbital platform, fully restored and upgraded, formed the centerpiece of this new defense network, its ancient weapons supplemented by human innovations and Jaxari engineering. Vexus had been appointed special liaison between the Jaxari Council and the human delegation, her expertise in Guardian technology proving invaluable as the two species worked together. Today, she stood in the newly established Joint Command Center with Captain Chen, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. The Deep Space Monitoring Network detected harvester communication signatures in the Karoth Nebula, Chen explained, highlighting a region of space on the holographic display. "That's 3 weeks closer than their last confirmed position." "They're coming," Vexus said, not a question but a statement of fact. "Yes." Admiral Volkov estimates 8 to 10 weeks before they reach Jaxari space. "The good news is we'll be ready for them. The defense grid is at 89% capacity, and the 5th and 7th fleets will arrive next week to reinforce our position." Vexus studied the human officer, no longer the bleeding, desperate captain she'd first met during the battle, but a steadfast ally who had spent countless hours helping the Jaxari understand both the threat they faced and the technology that might save them. "Your people have given so much," Vexus observed. "Technology, knowledge, protection, all to a species you only just discovered." Chen smiled, a gesture Vexus had learned indicated genuine warmth, rather than the threat display her ancestors might have interpreted it as. "It's what we do," she replied simply. "What we've done for over 5,000 years. The Guardians saved us when we couldn't save ourselves. We swore to continue their mission. And yet, according to your own historical records, humans once fought wars among themselves over resources, territory, ideology. We still disagree," Chen acknowledged. "Different nations, different philosophies, but the Harvester War changed us fundamentally. Nothing unites like a common enemy, especially one that nearly wipes you out. When 80% of your species is consumed by an alien threat, petty differences tend to fade in importance." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. Krell, now head of the newly formed Jaxari Human Archaeological Corps, rushed into the command center. "We found something," he announced, mandibles clicking rapidly in excitement. "In the secondary Guardian facility beneath the northern ice cap. A weapon, or at least, the plans for one." The ice cap facility made the original outpost look primitive by comparison. Buried 2 kilometers beneath the frozen surface of Jaxar Prime's northern pole, it had remained completely hidden until Guardian records from the orbital platform had revealed its existence. Admiral Volkov joined them at the facility, his weathered face serious as he examined the holographic schematics that Jaxari and human scientists had managed to extract from the Guardian database. "The Severance Protocol," he read, the translation matrix converting ancient Guardian script to both human and Jaxari languages simultaneously. I've heard rumors of this, but most believed it was theoretical, a weapon the Guardians conceptualized but never built. What does it do? Asked Vexus. The Admiral gestured to the complex schematics. The harvesters operate as a collective consciousness, each ship, each drone connected to the central mind. This weapon is designed to sever those connections, isolating each harvester unit from the collective, rendering them vulnerable. Realized Chen. More than vulnerable, corrected one of the human scientists. According to these notes, disconnected harvester units can't function independently. They become inert, alive but unable to take coordinated action. Like cutting the strings of a puppet. Can we build it? Asked Krell. The human and Jaxari engineers exchanged glances. The theory is sound, said the lead Jaxari engineer, but it would require generating an energy field unlike anything we've ever created. The power requirements alone would be impossible with current technology, finished her human counterpart. Unless. Admiral Volkov raised an eyebrow. Unless. The Guardian platform, the engineer explained. Its power core operates on principles we still don't fully understand. If we could adapt the severance protocol to channel through the platform's main emitter, then we'd have a weapon that could end the harvester threat once and for all, concluded Chen. Not end, corrected Volkov. The harvesters exist across multiple galaxies. This would affect only those within the field's range, but it could save Jaxar Prime and buy us time to develop more permanent solutions. The risk is substantial, warned the Jaxari engineer, modifying the platform's emitter while maintaining its defensive capabilities. One mistake could leave us defenseless. Vexus looked at the schematics, then at the assembled team of two species who, according to ancient warnings, should have been mortal enemies. Instead, they worked together with a harmony that defied those predictions. We have the best minds of two civilizations, she said. If anyone can make this work, we can. 7 weeks later, with the modified platform nearing completion and the combined human Jaxari fleet in position, the first harvester scouts appeared at the edge of the system. Unlike the previous attack, this force arrived with overwhelming numbers, hundreds of vessels ranging from small scouts to massive command ships. In the Joint Command Center, Vexus stood with Captain Chen, Admiral Volkov, and the Jaxari High Council as they monitored the approaching threat. They've learned, noted Volkov grimly. No tentative probing this time. They're coming in force. The tactical display showed the harvester fleet's composition. Over 300 vessels arranged in a formation that would allow them to surround Jaxar Prime from all directions. The severance protocol is at 94% integration, reported the chief engineer. We need another 6 hours for final calibration and testing. We may not have 6 hours, Chen replied, studying the enemy movements. They're advancing faster than anticipated. Estimate.